So if you're a brand new Jaguar fan, you're really not going to understand what I'm about to say as much as a Jaguar fan that's been around for a decade plus. And I think I'm about to say that, look, my whole entire time as a Jaguars fan, I feel like we've been cursed at the tight end position. We really haven't been able to draft one over the last 10, 15 years. And because we haven't been able to draft one, we've been trying to sign tight ends. And we've gone through the different Julius Thomases or the Austin Safarian Jenkinses or like the random Michael Rivera that came over from the Raiders. And look, every time we just haven't been able to hit, and then we just wind up with tight ends that are draft busts or free agent busts, and then we're right back at square one. Well, in 2022 free agency, the Jaguars signed Evan Engram to a one-year deal. And look, he was a very familiar name. He was a first-round pick from Ole Miss. He played for the Giants, one of the more popular NFL teams in the NFL. We saw him play plenty of times on primetime football, and maybe he's even been on your fantasy team before. But when Giants fans, if you asked any Giants fan about Evan Engram, what did they say? Oh, he sucks. He's injury prone. He drops the ball. He can't catch the ball. Like, he's awful. Good riddance. Thank God he's not on our team anymore. And was kind of like, okay, well, that's what they're saying about him. Maybe with Doug Peterson and, the new environment, he can be a better player. And what happened? He went out there in 2022 and put up 73 receptions for 766 yards and also put up 4 touchdowns in a regular season. He was fourth amongst tight ends in receiving yards in the NFL in 2022. He has also broke a franchise record for a tight end in both receiving yards and receptions. And he also threw up his own personal career highs in receptions and receiving yards. So, to say the least, he had a pretty successful season with the Jaguars. Some most memorable games by him or moments were when we visited Tennessee and he put up 11 receptions for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also, when the Jaguars played the Cowboys at home, he fought his way on the final drive to get out of bounds to stop the clock, which was pivotal because the Jaguars needed to conserve their timeouts, and the Jaguars were able to extend the drive and kick a field goal, put in the overtime, and we all know what Rayshon Jenkins did later. And we also think of the Chargers game in the playoffs where the dude put up 11 receptions for 93 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, awesome year. It was sweet. But the only bad thing was once the season ended, we realized as we looked toward the offseason, Evan Engram was only on a one-year deal. He signed a one-year prove-it deal, and what did he do? He proved it. Now it was time for him to kind of get some money. And look, the Jaguars, you're allowed to put down one franchise tag on a player. The only real players that would be worth it for the Jaguars would have been Jawan Taylor and Evan Engram, and they decided to let Jawan Taylor walk, and they franchise tagged Evan Engram with the hopes that it would give the Jaguars more time to be able to work a long-term deal with him. And the Jaguars, they weren't able to work a long-term deal. They placed a franchise tag on him. And then the Jaguars had until tomorrow at 4 p.m. to really work out a long-term deal. And the Jaguars were able to do that. Instead of playing on the franchise tag worth $11.3 million straight out the cap, he was able to sign a 3-year, $41 million deal with $24 million guaranteed. So, yeah, he's a Jaguar. Sign him to a good deal. It's good to kind of know that Evan Engram is now in the fold with us for the next few years, and we don't have to have that looming franchise tag number because you want to be able to keep as much of your guys as you can. Now, this is awesome news for many reasons. Number one is really for the first time in a while, like we actually have some real investments in the tight end room. A year ago today, our 3 top tight ends were Evan Engram, Chris Manhertz, and Dan Arnold, and all of those guys were upcoming free agents. So we really had no investment in tight ends just a year ago. Now you look at it, we talked about Evan Engram signing the 3-year, $41 million deal, but you also look at the NFL draft, and the Jaguars just threw a second-round pick at tight end Brenton Strange from Penn State. So now you look at it, they have significant investment in two different tight ends on the Jaguars. And when it comes to the Jaguars offense, Doug Peterson loves running two tight end sets. So now you have two tight ends with a little bit different abilities that the offensive coordinators and Doug Peterson is going to be able to play with. And, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to throw to. So that's pretty awesome news from that standpoint. Number two, look, you're keeping good locker room players. If you're a Jaguars fan, one of our favorite segments over the course of last year, especially down the stretch, was when the Jaguars put out the hunt videos. And a bunch of the, you got to hear a lot of audio on the field. You got to see a lot of the stuff after. And you really saw that, look, Evan Engram is a real leader on this offense. This offense would be a lot different without Evan Engram. And last year, there's no doubt that the Jaguars would not have made the playoffs without Evan Engram, in my opinion. I mean, they needed every single win that they had to be able to make the playoffs. And the contributions that Evan Engram made for the Jaguars last year were very significant. Very significant. So that's super good that we were able to keep him. And you're keeping a good locker room player and a guy that wants to be here. He said on a podcast, look, before Jacksonville, when he was in New York, he was slowly kind of losing love for the game. He heard the sound of the New York, fan base, and there's just a lot of pressure. And he came over to Jacksonville and really rejuvenated his career. And it's good to hear that if you're a Jaguars fan, because how oftentimes do players come here and they have down years, or players leave Jacksonville and they go somewhere else and they have major success. It's nice that when you looked at 2022, we signed, to name a few players, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Engram. Those three guys had career highs in all different categories for the Jaguars. They were able to come to Jacksonville and have success, not just come here for a payday. So we're able to keep those. It's good to be able to keep those guys around for the long haul. And number three is just continuity on this offense. Trevor Lawrence and Evan Engram down the stretch really formed a great bond, and they have a good relationship off the field. So look, continuity in the offense. There's going to be there's going to be a lot of new pieces this year. I mean, like the aforementioned Britton Strange, you also bring Calvin Ridley in here. Tank Bigsby will be a part of the offense. You have a new right tackle with Anton Harrison. Look, there's going to be some new on this offense. So, keeping around as much as of the playmakers you can, and not just keeping players around for continuity, keeping players around that actually deserve a roster spot and actually do contribute. Those are huge things to keep success in this franchise. So very exciting news. July, not much goes on, but for us, we get to, keep one of our better players on the roster. So it's good news today. I'm very excited about it. So let me know your thoughts. Are you excited for Evan Engram? Are you excited for the season? We're getting close, guys. We're getting close to being able to watch these games on NFL Sunday with each other. So I know I'm pumped. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video and if you enjoyed the signing, and I'll catch you guys later. Go Jags.